This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Gaspers claimed another Weekend Warriors championship at Donington last week, but behind him, fierce battle continues for best of the rest. Lindhoff and Sadro have been skirting wins much of the season, each claiming 2 podiums so far. Today, it's likely to come down to who finishes ahead of the other. Beautiful Phillip Island sets the stage for them as we get ready to watch the final round of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacker. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Ducky Beard. Steph, you talk about drivers' tracks. I'd say Phillip Island almost epitomizes that.
Joe, in my opinion, Phillip Island is the definition of a driver's track. Located in Ventor on Phillip Island, today's Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit was first used in 1956 with a slight different layout to the Honda hairpin. Most known for supercars and MotoGP, this 12-turn, 2.7-mile-long track had hosted racing since 1928 and was, until 1940, a track of closed-off public gravel roads. Phillip Island actually reopened twice in 1967 and 1988. The main problem always was the extensive maintenance the track surface needed, as the bridge from Australia to Phillip Island couldn't carry the equipment needed for the production of a good asphalt piece. Nonetheless, the track stands proud before us today. Thankfully, the bridge can carry heavy equipment since the mid-80s, and thus we're able to take you around Phillip Island for the season's last GSRC lap guide.
Alright, we've got Kevin Brown in the GSRC SRF, so let's do a lap around Phillip Island. This long front straightaway is going to create draft battles all day, so don't be surprised to see cars 2 and 3 wide. However, coming up to Doohan, the first corner, it's going to get very hairy when cars aren't single file. It's barely a lift through here, and the SRF has some serious off-throttle oversteer. After that, you have to quickly get set up for the southern loop. This is a very long corner that both has a rise in elevation and a very late apex, so it's extremely easy to get the power too early and understeer off into the weeds. If you got it right, you'll be in a good position to set up a pass into the hairpin. But before you reach that, you'll need to gently steer it into Stoner. Unfortunately, this kink can make it hard to tell if a driver plans to defend down into Honda, so be wary of your opponent's intentions. On the exit, you can use all of this AstroTurf on the outside, so don't be afraid to let the car drift pretty far out. From there, it's a short run to Siberia, which has some very unique characteristics. It's an uphill climb with lots of banking, but it's such a long corner that you want to square off the apex very late. This is going to be super important now that you're on the backside of the circuit, because it's a long ways until you lift off the power. The car is going to weave gently left and then to the right through 7 and 8, but keep holding right to set yourself up for lukey heights. The track is going to climb and climb, but get tighter and tighter, so some lifting will be necessary. That's because you definitely want the car to hug the left curb as you plunge back downhill into the braking for turn 10. This is a sharp hairpin with a good bit of camber, but once again, it's an incredibly important exit. You won't be lifting again until you reach Doohan. Hold left around 11, then track out to give the widest entry you can into 12. This is the final corner, and once again, the banking allows you to carry lots and lots of speed. And you're going to need it now that we've hit the long pit straight. As long as you've kept it on the black stuff and pointed forward, you've now finished a lap around Phillip Island.
You see a lap around Phillip Island, and today, well, We'll see the last of the season's laps at this Australian track. But before we do see that, we want to mention that Southeast Spec Racer, who has sponsored this full season, is a full-service Spec Racer Ford prep shop located in Daytona Beach, Florida, offering a fleet of race-ready SRFs and the driver coaching to go with it. SSR is your one-stop shop for all things spec. They also offer transportation and storage, parts, and advice. You can find them at southeastspecracer.com. A huge thank you goes out to them for getting involved in this awesome series. Now, let's take a look at the championship. We mentioned that the championship winner has been decided. Gaspers, of course, is unreachable now. But look at that. Sadro jumps Lindoff with the last round, and it is only 4 points between the two of them. Elson is able to try and catch the two of them. We're not sure how likely it is that he'll be able to do that. And we got two drivers tied for fifth. And that's just for the Spec 1 championship. We also have the Spec 2 championship. What are we looking at there?
Well, Alejandro Leiro once again, or rather still in the lead of your Spec 2 class, but also he sadly is, for the dramatic ending of this season, no longer catchable by Bob Kern, who is already 117 points behind. But it gets rather close between him and Ed Doherty yet again, because Doherty, he is not that far off in third. Jeff Cantor, fourth, second place, United States driver in Spec 2. He is 158 points behind, and Tom Gradwell, the Australian driver on his home turf, maybe can get into fourth, as he is just a few points behind the USA driver there of Cantor. So still, not everything decided in Spec 2 class either.
We'll have to look forward to that. Spec 2 guys don't always get nearly as much love, so maybe we'll try and spend some time watching that championship. But let's see what the race itself has in store. As we mentioned, this is the final round. They do have one drop week, we should mention, in all of this, and that could affect things. We'll try to keep track of that for you. And they have a 40-minute race with one scheduled pit stop. That's because they've limited the fuel compared to what the real cars can hold in these machines. They've also rationed the points. Now, it says 100 to 25, but the top three, the podium, will always stay the same. It's 100 for win, 90 for second, and 83 for third. They get penalty points if they have too many off tracks or contact with other cars or spins. They have -2 on the championship points for every 10 incidents that they accrue, and they have one spare car waiting in the pits if they damage it too much. We do see that used pretty often because of how sensitive these cars are on the aerodynamics once they get up to speed. And if you are up to speed on the championship now, well, it's thanks to IESN. The iRacing Esports Network has brought us the Weekend Warriors this season. Huge thank you goes out to them. And if you want to thank them even more, well, consider subscribing so that you get all of the World Championship races, the official stuff, as well as many others in your YouTube feed. Here in sim racing, it's easy to go from the UK to Australia like we just did in the past week. All you need to do is click your mouse. But in the real world, it's a lot more involved for those who have to transport vehicles from place to place. The last thing you want to worry about is having to fill out all kinds of messy paperwork for the car inspections and then keep them in order on the road. There's great news if you're looking to do away with those stacks of paper. Inspect a Ride is the fastest way to conduct a vehicle inspection and create reports. You can save time, eliminate paper, keep better inspection records, and simplify your life all from your iPhone, iPad, or Android phone or tablet. You can find out more at inspectoride.com/iRacing, where you can even find a free trial to find out if Inspector Ride is right for you. So check it out. Once again, you can download that at the address of inspectoride.com/iRacing. Taking a look at where we sit out on track in qualifying. Right now, Jason Perry up at the top, and Adam Bradshaw with an incredible run so far, putting himself in second.
Yeah, and incredible runs by both of them. Leiro also not too far behind, just 2/10, as is Michael Shaw. David Gaspers is in third right now. He is actually tied with Bradshaw. I just saw on 148.933 there. And before I want to talk a bit more about this qualifying, I have to mention McAreevy and Bertoni, both of them, our two drivers tied for 5th place in Spec 1 class. They are not here today. So that moves Jason Perry. He can snatch this 5th place away as he is just 5 points behind. And Leiro, he can get himself into 5th position overall on the championship because he is just 3 points behind those 2 guys.
Wow. As we watch Leiro come across the line, that was not his fastest lap, unfortunately. Behind him, Perry's actually getting a shove from David Gaspers. Now, hopefully they don't get a 0x or that'll discount their laps. And both of them seem to have had. Gaspers has moved up to 3rd, which is better than how he was looking in practice. He said he might lack a little bit of that practice because of Sebring yesterday, and he certainly is lacking a little pace compared to what we've seen previously. Still, that Spec 2 championship continues to heat up, at least on the track, not necessarily in the points race. Leiro and Bradshaw going to go at it once again, it seems, and once again at the front of the pack.
Yeah, and Bradshaw, he had a very late push to the season here. He is right now sitting in 7th overall. Sorry, not 7th overall, but in Spec 2. So he really had a great second half of the season, especially Charlotte and Donington. But as you can say, a bit too late for that, sadly, for him to challenge Leiro there. But it gives us some very great idea what he can do next season here for us in the Weekend Warriors.
Stevie Ray, the organizer of this series, continuing around. He currently sits in 10th. One of the cars behind him, actually, Henrik Lindhoff, who's again fighting for 2nd in the championship, is struggling out in qualifying today. He is all the way down in 13th. His last lap still continues to not improve, and he doesn't have his teammate with him, which is Leiro. Usually those two work together to try and find some pace. He's got 4 minutes. He could jump in and try and find his teammate, but he's running out of time to do so.
Yeah, I don't know what is up with Lindhoff. He dropped off, especially last race at Donington, where I saw he wasn't up to pace at all there. And now yet again in 13th as we look here at Jim McGill, who is, where is that? That is turn 2, I think. So, yeah, I don't know what is up with Lindhoff. Maybe he didn't have enough time to practice. Maybe he was more focusing on Sebring. But yeah, a bit unusual to see him that far down.
Just behind him currently is 15th for Chris Murakami. Now, Daniel Sadro's the one fighting with Lindhoff for 2nd in the championship. He's a little bit farther up, but also still not... I wouldn't say this is a phenomenal job by him. Maybe about average from what we've seen with Daniel. He's sitting in 7th. We've also got at least one newcomer out here today. Part of our involvement with Real World Spec Racers with the SSR has brought the likes of Sandy Satullo out to us, the 07 gracing the Australian countryside. See how his car is able to do against what is a very talented field of Spec Racer drivers here in the virtual world.
Yes, Sandy totally shows how talented these guys are. Because he is sitting right now, and sadly we have to say it, he is 2nd last right now. But yeah, it just shows how talented, how competitive these guys are. And Sandy, he just comes into the series and has no chance, sadly, here to go for the top positions with. I'm honestly a bit surprised about it.
Well, we've seen in the past here in sim racing that sometimes it's easier to go from sim racing to real racing than vice versa, just because we don't use the G-forces to try and drive the car as much, at least the sensations of them, to go fast, whereas in the real world, so many of the drivers do rely on that. And it is also difficult conditions, to be fair to Sandy. If we look at the weather, 123 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface right now. It is summer in Australia, even though it's winter over here in the States right now. So this is very appropriate temperatures. Also a little bit windy on top of it.
The thing is, I'm not surprised about the temperature at all. It's Phillip Island after all. We know summers are hot, winters are cold and windy. But I'm honestly surprised to not see that much wind out here today. Yes, we have 12 miles per hour, but for Phillip Island, that's not a lot.
Sun mercifully coming out for at least a little moment here. excuse me, the clouds coming out for a moment. And the final minutes of this qualifying, will that give anybody a chance to try and get themselves farther up? Now, as this race progresses, the one thing that I expect to see a lot of, even though I wouldn't think most people would consider this a draft track, for the SRF, Steph, I feel like that front stretch is going to make this all about where you place your car there and when.
Well, with the SRF, it's pretty much which track isn't a draft track, because these guys can get such a big push on a draft, even if the straight isn't that long. That's just the SRF in a nutshell, basically. But yeah, Phillip Island, you have to basically set up where we are right now with Bradshaw, who is coming out of turn 2. You have to set it up there ready, because you then have the Honda hairpin and the turn afterwards, those 2 hairpins. And that's just lucky hates. And if you're not perfectly set up already, you have no chance drafting past for first or whatever position you're trying to get away. Because that finish line, even though it's a bit down the road, it comes up fast.
Indeed, and the qualifying is now over. Paul Barbuza going to be the first one across. He sits 28th. Sandy's managed to top him in the qualifying, and he does not go faster, so he'll stay down there. Let's see if any of our other faster drivers are coming in. Shaw's going to give up on his lap. David Gaspers as well. Regalato's coming in. I think David's sock rider. Yeah, has he got a lap in, actually?
Yes, he has got a lap in, but he is sadly right now 7/10 behind Paul Barbuza, bringing up the rear of the field. Let's see what he can do in his last attempt over the line. He goes with a 52.1, bringing him close to 2/10 to Barbuza, but sadly not giving away his red lantern there. Next car coming to the line will be Steve Elson.
Steve's someone who has been threatening for wins this season. The number 56 comes around Swan Corner up towards the start-finish line. He'll be followed by the likes of Bob Kern. Elson currently sitting in 8th. Let's see if he can top that 49.4. Across the line, it is not faster, a 50.2 for him. So he'll stay in row 4.
Also, Bob Kern didn't improve there at all, only about 6/10 slower than his personal best so far, as Henrik Lindhoff is the next car to drive over the start-finish line, sitting in 13th right now. And not faster, 6/10 also slower than his personal best so far.
Antonio Reese from 6th place with a 149.2 on the board. See him get across, say 154.8, so that was a slow lap for him, unfortunately. I don't think there's anybody else, is there?
Nope.
Able to finish the lap? Nope. Yeah, you're right. That is it. So that will finish our grid here today for the final round of the Weekend Warriors in 2019 Season 1. And Jason Perry has come back and shown he has found some pace around here. Look at that, a 49.4. A 48.7 rather, compared to the 48.9 of Adam Bradshaw, 2/10 between them. David Gaspers is going to be starting on the 2nd row. Not a typical spot for him, but still 3rd will put him in a good position to wrap up with yet another win potentially. Alejandro Lero, our champion in Spec 2, sits in 4th. Then we've got Michael Shaw starting in P5 and Antonio Reese starting 6. Daniel Sadro will be P7. Steve Elson, who we saw cross the line, stays in 8th. Richard Yolland returns, and he is going to be 9th. He has found a lot more competition, it looks like, since his time here before. Steve Ray rounds out our top 10.
Edward Doherty brings up 3rd place in Spec 2, or 11th place on the grid here, right in front of Francesco Bernardo. Henrik Lindhoff stays in 13th with his last 2nd attempt. Jim McGill in 14th. Chris Murakami, the 01 machine, sitting in 15th. Tom Gradwell 16th. Rick Hansen 17th. Bob Kern in 18th. Ramon Regalato and Wayne Palmer rounding out the top 20 of your starting grid.
At the back of the field, Dominic Bureau is going to be 21st with Paul Godden behind him in P22. Then you've got the likes of Mark Ehan starting 23rd. Jeff Cantor will be 24th. In 25th and row 13, it will be John Dion. Then Christopher Bedsole will be 26. Sandy Satulo starts 27th. And Paul Barbuza, 28. All cars have managed to get a qualifying time in. David Sockrider starts 29th and last on the field today, waiting for that rolling start to take place behind the roof pace car. Then we'll go racing for 40 minutes, and there it takes off right now. This is a good one to finish this season on, I'd say, just because in most of these lower-powered cars, it seems like this track puts on fantastic racing.
To be honest, I have never seen not a good race at Phillip Island.
Yeah, we've watched even stuff as fast as GTEs, the Formula Renaults put on incredible shows out here. Now, I haven't seen any of the Formula Ones race here quite yet. I'm not sure what kind of performance they put on since they're so reliant on downforce. But regardless, these spec racer Fords in the past have... they've actually used this track, I want to say, for the Week 13 race, which is usually they focus on entertainment over everything for their track choices there.
Yeah, I think you're right with that, if I remember correctly. But one thing we have to talk right now about, coming back to the present, is that track temperature. Because, and that's where a lot of drivers will be glad, because our starting time, or the virtual standard time right now, is 15:05 and 15 seconds. So that 119 Fahrenheit that you see up there on top of your screen, that's gonna go down quite significantly later into the race. So tires, people, you might see them struggle on their tires because of how hot that is. But you will see them struggle less and less because that track temperature will come down.
Not sure why Jason Perry was hanging back there, but now he's caught up to the pace car and has returned. He was certainly checking up the field for a moment there. Yes, indeed, about 3 p.m. in the afternoon here, virtual standard time. So hopefully the sun should start setting a little bit, at least for these guys, and cooling the track down. We've been getting some cloud cover, we should say, and that should help as well. It's been as high as 126 is where I've seen it when I've actually looked at it. It may have gone hotter than that at moments. I'm curious to check that after the race, because this is just some incredible temperatures as far as what I've seen. Pace car is peeled off. Jason Perry has control of the field, coming around Swan, waiting for the green flag to start. They now see that front stretch, that long run down to Doohan. He accelerates away. We go racing here at Phillip Island, but is not the best start for Jason Perry. He's getting a little bit of a bump draft from the car behind him. That is, I'm trying to figure out who that is back there. That's Gaspers, actually, trying to give him a shove.
Four wide in behind. Whoa. 4 wide, I'm sorry. 4 wide in behind there, 4 to 1. I don't know how they managed to get through that cleanly, but there was a bit of a check up there for 10th position. Very big gap on the start between them, and yeah, everything super clean there right now, but there's a battle for P3 right now.
Only 2 offs we had was Dion and Satulo. Otherwise, it's a battle for the lead down into Honda. Perry leads Gaspers. Gaspers has been on a tear of wins lately, and I think he'd like to continue that. Look at all the 3 wide. It is a traffic jam into this hairpin, and I thought they were going to get out clean. We've got a little bumping and banging in the back. Otherwise, I think they're through.
Yep, otherwise they're all through, and Gaspers is still not past Perry as Lero tried to shoot a non-existent gap. They're touching a little bit the wheels there with Perry, and Gaspers finally gets past Perry through Hayshed.
I tell you what, though, I'd be a little bit wary of Lero and Gaspers, because they have nothing to lose. They're essentially just here to win, if possible, as Gaspers locks it up slightly down into MG. More cars stacking up there. So far, so clean. And this has been a frantic start to the final round. Some drivers getting very, very aggressive with nothing to lose today.
And Steve Elson also is making up his way through the field after losing a few positions on the start. They're sleeping on the start as we have a 3 wide there for P1.
Leroy's going to go for it. He's going to see if he can take a Spec 2 car for the win. He gets by both of them, and he has the lead. Perry's going to take second. Gasper slots into third. Behind them and off track for Richard Yolland. Barely gets it back on before Adam Bradshaw can overtake. Another car was off behind them. I think that was Michael Shaw. My goodness. This is a wild start to this race.
Yeah, I also saw on the broadcast there, on the very back of the field, there was a wrecked car to the inside of the wall. No clue what happened. There's Gaspers goes 2 for 1 and overshoots.
He overshoots the corner indeed. He goes all the way off into the grass, slots way down, almost outside of the top 10. Up at the front, that gives it over to Jason Perry. Lero is in second, but he gets into Perry. Contact between them. Somehow, behind that all, Richard Yolland manages to avoid it and ducks off to the side. They've also got Adam Bradshaw trying to find his way through. Sadro, who's fighting for a championship position, is trying to stay safe, and now his rival actually passes him. And in the meantime, his teammate, that's Lero, spinning, getting into the other Spec 2 driver of Adam Bradshaw, and he's off the course. More three wide down into MG. It continues on. It is absolute chaos at the front of the field. Sadro manages to get through it, but he's behind Lindhoff.
Phillip Island yet again delivers there with the action already going here down on lap 2. Starting off with Gaspers trying to take the old layout of Phillip Island. They're shooting way off. And then it really went down for Lero. No clue what happened there for him. We surely have to look.
Richard Yolland has readapted to this challenge very quickly, but he went off last time. He almost goes off again. Little too hot into the corner. Perry tries to take advantage. He can't go around the outside of the southern loop. Maybe looks for the cutback and over under. Doesn't get the great momentum, does get the draft, and I think this is going to continue on its way down into Honda, Steph.
Yeah, and Gaspers is right now side by side with Sadro there for 4th position, as Perry is now side by side with Yelland. So, yeah, as I said, they're still going at it into Honda now, and Perry gets past again.
Behind them, a whole bunch of cars fighting, being led by Gaspers, who somehow cleared himself of all that mess. Sadro is in front of Ray, Bradshaw, Shaw, Reese, Bernardo, Elson, Murakami. My goodness, this is an incredibly huge pack, basically fighting to get to a podium spot.
As they're side by side, 4P2 Lindhoff versus Yelland. Yelland quite much deeper there than Lindhoff, so he's able to defend the position, but might be able to get attacked here into MG. He attacks actually Jason Perry. That was close between the two there.
Well, from behind from Lindhoff as well. Oh, Lindhoff's slow now. And did something happen to Henrik?
Seems like he didn't find a gear there. Yep, he didn't find the gear there right off, out of MG. Didn't find the gear. So Yelland and Perry are going at it yet again.
They're going to swap around. Yelland now takes the lead. Perry back into second. Behind them, you could see the battle between Gaspers and Lindhoff. Gaspers gets into third. Can he run down these top two, though?
Yeah, and they have to be careful because now they have Gaspers in front of... Oh, Gaspers with a big slide there through southern loop. Keeps it together, but now Lindhoff comes back and probably is going to try to take this P3 away from him into Honda. Perry, meanwhile, tries to attack Yelland, but to no success.
Looks like Lindhoff going to be into third. Sadro, remember, is the one that wants to finish ahead of Lindhoff to overtake him in second in the championship. I wish we could cover more of this fight that's going on behind them. You can see glimpses of it, of the cars just swapping positions left and right in that stream of machines. That's Doherty, Reese, Elson, Shaw, Bernardo, and Ray all together fighting between what is 6th and 13th.
Yeah, and even Leroy is coming to is starting to come back through this field. So, yeah, we would really like to show some replays of all the stuff that we have seen so far, but we just can't. There's just too much action on the track, and I'm loving this so far.
I think we might have a little bit of a break here to show what happened to Leroy. Because this, well, it's not significant for the championship, but for the speed that he's been showing. Let's watch his incident here in Lukey Heights. I didn't really get a chance to even go back and look at it, so I'm curious to see if there's anyone to blame in this or if this is just a racing incident. Yalland was inside, but it almost looked like ghost contact initially.
Yeah, it's a lot of net code in there, and then he just overcorrected and got collected by Bradshaw.
Bradshaw gave him a good thunk. Oof, yeah, that was a hard hit. He's got to hope that he doesn't have too much suspension damage from that. So we come back live. You see Bradshaw currently running in P7 in the midst of this group. And Lindhoff has been overtaken by Sadro. Sadro's now into 4th. With how high up... go ahead.
Lindhoff tried to overtake Gaspers.
Behind them, sorry to interrupt you now. Bradshaw got run into by Francesco Bernardo. But they both managed to get through the corner, but Bernardo is now being overtaken by Shaw, who gets inside up through Siberia.
Yeah, Honda hairpin most definitely the turn to watch out here. It's so much action going on right there. But what happened with with Lindhoff? He tried to overtake Gaspers in turn 2 southern loop, but he just went in too fast and had to save a spin there, and Sadro got past him inside.
And just so that our drivers, or our viewers, excuse me, are clear of what's at stake here between Lindhoff and Sadro, they are high enough up in the finishing order. If they finish where they are, it's basically who finishes ahead of the other will take second in the championship.
As it looks like that Richard Yalland is trying to go back into the lead yet again. And there you can see it, able to draft past Perry to get the lead on the line there by 0.036 seconds. And that is just on lap 6, and we still have about 30 minutes to go.
97 continues to stalk the number 96. Are these two actually teammates? I'm curious. The paints, well, I guess the paints aren't incredibly similar, but with the numbers being right next to each other, wasn't sure if they were potentially working together here, especially both of them being well aware of how fast Gaspers is. They aren't really fighting too fiercely, so this starts to make me think this is more of a dance than a battle.
I think the numbers are just coincidence, and I'm pretty sure they're smart enough to work it out that alone they have no chance against Gasper, so they're working together, drafting past each other on the drafting zones, which are plenty here, so Gaspers gets not too fast to them.
Let's jump back to Chris Murakami in 14th. Was in a nice battle with Hansen and Leroy, and actually those two still side by side coming up out of Siberia. The 282 of Leroy trying to make a recovery drive with a wounded car, and he's able to dispose of the number 236 relatively easily now.
Yeah, and Leroy, he has the damage. You can see it there on his left side. And it seems like it's not affecting him all that much here, which is honestly surprised on a draft track like Phillip Island.
Well, he's coming to a long straight now. Let's see how much it affects him here. He is going to get some help from the likes of Murakami and McGill just ahead of him. We ride on board with the Scandinavian now. Pulled up within, so I'm not sure we'll get a great read of his straight line speed now that he's got a big hole being punched for him.
Well, he is keeping pace with Murakami, so yeah, it seems like, especially in the draft, it's not affecting him all that much, if at all.
Side by side with McGill through Doohan, and he finally overtakes him on his way into the southern loop, but he breaks a little deep, cuts back in, manages to tuck it into the apex, and keeps himself in P14 for the moment. Now he's sizing up Murakami, seeing if he can take 13th spot as well.
Meanwhile, Sadro and Gaspers were side by side for P3, and Sadro did outbrake himself ever so slightly, letting Lindhoff pass. So Lindhoff is again in front of Sadro for the championship.
We saw on screen Leroy did manage to get the position away from Murakami. Meanwhile, we're watching this battle for third now, with Sadro still hanging right behind his rival and the champion winner this season ahead of them on track. David Gaspers leading the way. Once again, I get the sense that everybody knows Gaspers tends to be one of the fastest out there. They are just probably riding his coattails for the moment. The good news is all this cloud cover has lowered the temperature. The bad news is the temperature is still 117 degrees on track.
Yeah, it lowered it, but not really. As there's someone pitting right now,
Shaw.
Steve Elson and Michael Shaw.
And I suspect these are scheduled. We're 10 minutes into the race. This is about where we tend to see drivers start to come in. And Elson has a severe amount of damage on the front of that 56.
Yeah, I don't know where he picked it up. There's also a load, like nearly 3 tons of gravel on the inside of turn 1 there. I wonder if that has to do something with that, as people are actually struggling a little bit for grip through turn 1.
Well, that'll be Harry. Who wants to go through that corner, losing grip unexpectedly? We haven't been missing anything up at the front. Yalin and Perry just swapping back and forth. You can see them flash across the screen through Honda as we watch the battle for third continue, which is more of a struggle to try and catch the top two. They're staying right about where they have been, 2 seconds behind the top two. Not many inroads have been made, unfortunately.
Gasper's going actually quite wide there out of Siberia. Let's see if Lindhoff does something. No, he tucks in and rather pushes him, trying to get up to the 2 guys in front who have done a phenomenal job of trading back and forth and keeping their speed and momentum up through the turns.
And don't forget the car behind them. That is Stevie Ray in the black and red machine, the 4th car in line. He's sitting 6th overall and is looking pretty handy as well to do something for the spots. Potentially maybe just saving fuel. Nope. Well, maybe he was saving fuel regardless. This is just Stevie Ray. He always pits early.
Yeah, but this makes me wonder, do the others too who have pitted already have enough margin of error to stay in this race without having to pit one more time? Because we know Stevie Ray normally pits on the first opening of the pit window.
That's a good question. And I mean, is this a relatively thirsty track? Does it tend to suck up a lot of fuel in the specs?
Well, you have the problem of the very tight hairpins. But I don't think so. It sucks up too much. But then again, you also can't save all that much. As oh, that was quite a reach on there from Stevie Ray, nearly getting run over by Michael Shaw and David Sockrider.
Surprised he didn't implement any track-specific rules to force people to use the long pit exit, which is a little safer. But glad to see that nothing came of that. Ray returns 25th, just among both Elson and Reese.
Well, the thing with the longer pit exit is actually that it's incredibly bumpy, since we do not have the resurfaced version of that pit exit, and I think it would actually upset this car so much that they might run into problems of staying on that narrow pit exit.
Meanwhile, this is our 2 lead cars. And that gap has been narrowed slightly now. Remember, I said it was 2 seconds not long ago. It's 1.7. It's not gigantic chunks, but it is significant enough. Well, and I say that, it's now gone down to 1.4. Gaspers is coming.
Yeah. I think he already has the help of the draft now, as they're trading places yet again. Yellen going past Perry. And Lindhoff, instead of trading, he just proceeds to push David Gaspers every single time he comes up to his rear.
2 heads are better than 1. And even though it's not Talladega, you can give a little bit of a bump draft in these cars. And I think it's working. It's down to 1.5 between the top two and the second pack. He's doing it yet again. He's doing it a lot of different straights here.
Yeah, you can pretty much draft on nearly every straight that this track has. And let's also not forget David Gaspers. He is already in the draft range of this car, which is about 2 seconds. So yeah, even though this car might be small, the effect is actually quite long, noticeable.
A little bit earlier, we were watching Lindhoff's teammate make progress through. Oh, and I was going to say he's in 9th, but make that 10th possibly for the moment. He gets back past Murakami on the inside of Siberia. Has not been able to dispose of this pack of cars. Almost wonder if he needs to start working together with him, because he's got about 4.5 seconds to catch Bradshaw ahead of him. But Bradshaw's not even our leader in the Spec 2 race today. That currently belongs to the likes of Edward Doherty in 7th.
Yeah, we have the 2 Spec 2 class leaders right behind each other. So yeah, we're expecting probably to something to go down here, especially also because they are kind of for position as Bradshaw goes into pit lane now. So Doherty, a lone driver on a lone track.
Ooh, who was that took the cone out there? That was Bernardo trying to push the limits of the pit entry. Hopefully he didn't get a speeding penalty from that one. They do not have pit limiters on these cars, so you got to really watch out for your speed.
Gotta need that Thunder foot control to stay under the pit speed limit. And
Yolland a little bit wide coming out of the southern loop. Perry's going to take advantage of that, trying to stretch their speed as well as they can, because now they can probably see in their F3 boxes it is less than a second as Gaspers gets within a few car lengths coming through the Honda corner now.
I just wanted to talk about the battle in white, so to speak, as we switched over to Yeland, ruining my lead up to this. But yeah, Gaspers, he is getting closer, and he is getting closer fast. I think they have realized now that the strategy they were pulling off with, instead of pushing to overtake each other on the draft, really didn't work out all that well, as Gaspers goes super wide here and Luki hates, and Lindhoff is right there to take advantage from it, but is actually not able to do so.
Around the outside of MG, he just slots back into line. So despite the best efforts of Perry and Yolland to make it a good day for a white wedding, their union has not allowed them to stretch away from the next few cars. They have dropped Stevie Ray because he took a pit stop, but how is that going to play out once they take their stops and join him? Here comes Richard Yolland to go by one more time. Down the front stretch to complete another lap through Doohan. Gaspers now licking his chops, thinking he could take a 4th win in a row. Make that a 5th win in a row, actually.
Oh, Gaspers quite loose there through the dirt off turn 2 on the apex, keeps it together and doesn't even miss a beat.
Don't need to go to it, but just want to mention our Spec 2 leader has pitted. Doherty has come in, and now Yolland going a little bit defensive here.
I think Yeland realized the timing here and yeah, just tries to now stay ahead of everyone else and kind of dictate that pace of this pack.
A pack that has now become 5 cars deep, climbing up through Hayshed towards Lukey Heights. And I have to imagine this has got to be a very tough corner in these cars with that lift throttle oversteer.
Yeah, it is one of the hardest. I'm sorry that I'm a bit distracted here. I just saw Bernardo disconnect from the server, and I don't know what happened there, but it looked like a hardware failure. See, no break the Honda chicane. and ran into the walled boundary, so to speak, into the invisible wall, and completely wrecked his car there.
And bad news for Stevie Ray fans. He had a spin in Honda about a lap and a half ago, so I'm not sure that we'll be able to... Oh, as we got 3 wide for the lead up here for second place, really, and that's Lindoff trying to go through the middle. Is that Yalman losing the car? It is.
Yes.
He gathers it back together, or does he? He's still spinning and into the tires. Yalman is out of it now. Oh, disappointment, because he was fighting so well and driving so great for his return. But the UK&I driver, let's see, does he get a touch?
I don't think he got touched. I think it was just the dirt on the outside ruining his grip, the grip on his tires and spinning him out.
He almost caught it 2 or 3 times, and once it hit the grass, that was all she wrote. So that leaves us with Gaspers leading, Lindoff second, Perry third, and Sadro fourth. And also, now that we've lost, well, we expect we will have lost Stevie Ray because of his spin, it'll probably stay as these 4 once the pit stops cycle through. Oh, and another spin for Steve Ray. This one was in the southern loop, another one all by himself. I'm not sure why he's struggling so much after the pit stop.
I can't think of an explanation there either. Kind of weird. It's going quite south for him right now. 2 spins there in just 3 laps. Yeah, he really... Maybe he's pushing too hard after the pit stop. Who knows?
So, as our top 4 try to settle it out, the top 2 using each other to push forward. The next 2 were side by side momentarily, but Jason Perry is going to come out with third as Sadro falls in behind. Sadro now having a car splitting himself and Lindoff. Ooh, it was a
Gaspers.
Big slide for Gaspers.
Not the first time we're seeing that from Gaspers. So just pushing a bit too hard there through Southern Loop, which is actually not the easiest turn, as Perry tries to go here for the lead in Honda.
He's got the inside. Lindoff's going to fight him, though. Brakes as late as possible. Tries to carry the speed, and it's going to switch back into Siberia, but now a nose ahead goes to Jason Perry. Is that going to be enough around this banked corner? Not quite, as they almost come together. It is 2 by 2 for the lead. Currently with Lindoff with a nose ahead. Jason Perry next to him. Finally, Sadro slots in the line ahead of Gaspers. Still, it's not been decided up at the front. They hit Lukey Heights now, and it is Lindoff with the advantage once more around the long uphill left-hander. It's going to have to take an out-braking maneuver by the likes of Jason Perry. Can he finally get it done? He's slightly ahead. Now he cuts him off.
What a side-by-side battle there between the 2, but I'm pretty sure that they're not finished yet, as Lindoff... I don't know, it seems like they want to have different strategies here. Perry, who wants to cycle past on a draft, and Lindoff, actually, never mind, he changed his strategy. He's now also going for the cycle past here.
And that was Gaspers. That was Gaspers we saw going in, sorry. So he's abandoned a little bit early. Maybe he feels held up by these drivers as the battle for the lead continues. Perry has to settle for second for the moment. Fascinating. This is not typical for Gaspers.
No, and the question will be for Gaspers, where does he come out? Will he come out with someone to draft with, or will he be able to stay out and drive alone here? It's going to be interesting what happens there with Gaspers, and especially how his pace will be compared to the other guys.
Gaspers comes out in the midst of a couple cars. That was Dominic Bureau, who just went by him. That's Jeff Cantor behind. The next cars down who have pitted are a number of seconds back. That's Shaw and Elson.
Lindoff and Perry came a little bit together in Honda corner there. I don't know if we can get a replay from that. Yes, we can. There it is. And you're gonna see it right on the apex. They lock tires a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit of elbows out for Jason Perry, and Lindhoff has to go back to third. Oh, this is, I have a car ahead, and I expect all the track. Thank you very much. But in the meantime, Lindhoff has managed to get back past Sadro into second place. You can see on screen as they come through the penultimate turn. Now, does anybody respond to Gaspers? That's the question here. Two of them do. Lindhoff does not.
Very late there for Perry. That could have ended a bit badly if Lindhoff would have been closer to his rear there. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting now how they come out compared to Gaspers.
Do you think one lap by themselves is enough for Gaspers to jump them, or?
Well, Gaspers had the draft of Bureau and Bob Kern, who is now pitting right in front of him, so he might be able to jump them. It's gonna be interesting to see as he comes now onto the start-finish straight. Sadro is off already. Perry is still standing.
Ooh, it's a long one for Perry. And Gaspers is out way behind. No, not way behind Sadro. He's gaining because he's got the momentum. He's right with him, and Sadro gives him room on the inside, lets him through. So Gaspers will supposedly return to the lead, depending on what happens with Lindhoff once he pits. Sadro slots in behind him. Elson is the next one back. Where is Perry? Oh, it is a nightmare stop for Jason Perry. 8 seconds longer than many of those around him.
I wonder what happened there. 8 seconds longer is a bit weird. Maybe he just overcalculated his fuel entirely, or what happened there? Might have to ask him later there, if he comes into the booth.
And Sadro manages to get by Gaspers for P2. Wonder if maybe he just had his spare car turned off by accident and it went into repair mode.
That would only make sense if he had required repair, which I don't really think. As Lindhoff is now pit lane.
Remember there was that slight touch. I wondered maybe if it touched his suspension. I mean, that's a long shot, but I don't know. I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall here.
Yeah, and I don't have a better guess than doing that same here. So I think it's the best guess that he had suspension damage and forgot to turn on his spare car up. But yeah.
All right. This is Sadro and Gaspers that we're watching, but Lindhoff has come in. He's going now, but we've seen you get a lot of speed coming down the front stretch, so he could yet still be caught by these two, and they are coming quickly. I don't think Lindhoff is going to be able to stay ahead. He's crawling along.
And he's actually gonna stay ahead here as he's already going into turn 1 as these guys now turn into turn 1. So he got himself a little bit of a lead, but that's gonna vanish in just a lap because he has no draft and these guys are drafting up to him.
Actually quite surprised by that. Wow. So Lindhoff, with a not particularly stellar pit stop, just, I guess, had a good in and out lap and finds himself leading Gaspers, who is ahead of Sadro. And then you've got a 5-second gap back to Michael Shaw, the next car back. So it is down to these three, more or less, on who takes the win in the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, and let's not forget about the 3 guys behind them who we're watching right now. Oh, Elson!
Gets spun around through Honda. Did he have help there?
No, yeah, as our director said there, he just did outbrake himself there and spun the car around into the infield there. No harm, no foul, but he lost that position to Antonio Rees and Chase Perry.
No, I just realized that on the front he has the spoof of the John Player special saying SRF on his hood. I like that a lot. That is really cool there for the number 56 car. He gets it going once again. He's down in 7th now that he has returned to the track. Oh, it's the Stevie Ray fan club.
That's great.
I like that. I didn't even think of that. I love the creativity of these drivers. So pit stops are now done. We can report that everybody has come in and out. Let's run you down real quick on what everybody's been doing. Lindhoff, who started this race well down 13th, has used the draft and clean driving to get himself into the lead to try and take second in the championship. David Gaspers, who started from third, fell backwards because of a problem in the Honda corner and eventually came back here to the top. He is being chased by Daniel Sadro, who's fighting Lindhoff for second in the championship. Sadro started in seventh, another driver who's climbed upwards. Then you've got the likes of Michael Shaw, who started in fifth, sits in fourth, so no real change for him. He's a little bit ahead of Antonio Reese, who rounds out our top five. Steph?
Jason Perry is in sixth. He started in first, so he has the wrong gear in his car there. Wrong direction going there. Steve Elson, he is in seventh place. He started in eighth, so also for him, not bit slight there for Stevie Elson. He did not really improve on his position. Alejandro Leiro, after one big incident in Lucky Heights, fighting himself down in 18th position, he climbed back up into 8th, has got his spare car out, and is hoping that he can get closer to the likes of Perry and Elson ahead. Right behind him, that's the car of Edward Doherty in 9th position. He started outside of the top 10 in 11th place. Rounding out your top 10 of today's field is Adam Bradshaw, starting in second down to 10th place. Really not the race for him today.
And the lead has changed hands, and second might not be solidified either. Let's take a look at the pass. This actually took a while to make work. You'll see David Gaspers gaining on Lindhoff. And it happens through Lukey Heights, then MG, and then finally in the penultimate corner it gets settled. It's going to swap hands as we're watching the replay on top of that.
Yeah, great pass by Gaspers, just takes the run to the outside there through Hayshed and then through Lucky Heights. The inside line is the way faster line, and he shows that to perfection.
They're still side by side right now as they come out of the southern loop through Stoner, now towards Honda. Gaspers slightly ahead, but the inside still belongs to Henrik Lindhoff. He manages to use that grip on the rubbered end line to stay in the lead. We saw the gloves come off at the start of the race, then everybody raced polite in the middle, and now they are off once again. Every one of these three drivers wants to win.
I'm actually surprised to see this much aggression from Gaspers as he goes to the inside there, because he doesn't really have anything to lose here. His position is so hard into the ground, stamped into the ground, that he can pretty much just park the car and drive home, and he is still gonna win the championship because he is already our champion. So I'm honestly surprised to see this much fighting from him, but Lindhoff and Sadro, obviously they're fighting for position against each other as both Gaspers and Lindhoff go way off track there. So I'm not surprised to see the rationale from them, but as said, Gaspers, quite surprised there.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by Gaspers because, like I said earlier, he's got nothing to lose. If he can't lose the championship, why not go for another win? At this point, if he wrecks out, it's no biggie, and he knows that the two behind him don't want to wreck out. Although I guess at this point, like you said, they have nothing to lose because they need to just simply finish in front of the other, and at that point, holding back won't help you. Whew, man, it is tight between these three.
Gaspers had a very slight slide there, and Sadro nearly overlooked that and nearly ran into the back of Gaspers. There's Gaspers tries to go to the left side of Lindhoff yet again.
And yet again, it looks like Lindhoff going to have the inside. A bit of a slide through the corner. He collects it together as Gaspers really tearing up those rear wheels in a number of corners this race on an already hot track. It has cooled down to the bone-chilling 112 degrees Fahrenheit out there.
Yeah, it's really cold. I'm already looking for my jacket here. But yeah, Gaspers yet again goes to the inside, and they're just trading positions, and Sadro just staying back, looking at this, and yeah, if I would be in Sadro's position right now, I wouldn't even know what to think right now of these two guys ahead, because that would probably just scare me a bit too much to do anything against them.
Well, I mean, if you're Sadro, because we haven't seen him get on the attack nearly as much as these two, do you think maybe he's planning to use a last lap snipe right here? Slingshot by?
Well, the thing is with Sadro, what we have seen, when he tried to pass someone, it was always around the outside of Lucky Hates, and always he did not manage to make the pass. So I'm wondering if he just sits back and looks where these guys were vulnerable to him with his driving style, because so far what we have seen from him just didn't work out.
2 laps to go now, as it is Gaspers leading, Lindoff second, Sadro third. Apologies to the rest of the field, but this is really where the action is. He almost gets into the side of Gaspers. Lindoff is being fierce today. He wants to take a win side by side, but it is swapped roles. It is this time Gaspers who manages to take the inside. Can he use it as good to an effect as we saw Henrik do? Yes, he can. Henrik has no answer, and he settles for second. Henrik yet to win a race this season. 2 podiums so far, a third and a second place. David Gaspers, though, has taken 5 wins, 4 of them in a row.
Yeah, and Lindoff yet again tries to go to the inside here of Lucky Hate. And Lindoff, I think his tactic right now is to just get Gaspers between himself and Sadro, to have that buffer of 1 car between them so he doesn't get immediately attacked by Sadro if Sadro tries to do something.
I almost wonder if that could backfire on Lindoff, because if he tries to go around the outside, he could open a door for Sadro to get in front of him, which is all Sadro really needs to care about right now, is finishing ahead of Lindoff for second in the championship. White flag waves as they cross the line. This time, he's getting a shove from Sadro as they try to both overtake Gaspers. They've got the speed. He gets another little bump coming down the front stretch towards Doohan. He lifts early, though. That lets Gaspers back in around the outside with the track switching to the left through the southern loop. Gaspers is going to take second back, and still his rival is well ahead of him now with a car between. They head towards Stoner and Honda. How is this going to play out, Steph? This is one of the critical passing spots.
Well, it nearly went wrong there for Gaspers as Sadro tried to draft past with Lindoff. Gaspers and Sadro.
Gaspers in the middle. And on the inside, Lindoff is going to be able to keep the grip. They all make it through somehow. And it is still these 3 without being joined, because even though they have lost time to the cars behind them, they are so far ahead that they have not been able to catch up. Your leader is Lindoff. Gaspers is in second. Sadro now watching as the second place in the championship is slipping through his fingers. He's got to do something soon, and he's looking for it. On the outside of Lukey Heights, there's just not enough grip as he comes into the corner. He's not beside either of them yet. The defensive move from Lindoff down to MG. Gaspers trying to maybe get the run off the corner. Let's see if he can do it. A big slide from Sadro. That might be the nail in the coffin. You never know. The draft could be enough off the penultimate corner. That's the last time they'll get on the power. A little bit of a duck to the inside as Lindoff maybe trying to cover him off. They come to the front stretch. He's got ahead of Steve. Is he actually going to go off course, though? Gasper's going to try to take another. They almost come together. It's going to be a drag race to the line. Who is going to get it? It looks like Gaspers has a nose ahead, and at the line, it is Gaspers by 8/1000ths of a second. Antonio Reese takes 4th. Jason Perry just beats out the likes of Michael Shaw.
And Bradshaw and Elson are side by side for P9 here. And it seems like Elson has to run on the inside. Did he get it? Yes, he did.
There's runs to the line everywhere. 12th going to be won by Hansen, just barely over Stevie Ray after his spins. 16th up for grabs. Don McBuro and Paul Godden also fighting for that one.
P15 there. Bob Curran out of fuel.
Oh, no. But I think that one is going to go to Bureau. And Paul Barbuza just beats out the likes of Cantor. The last car in the lead lap going to be Tom Gradwell. Let's take a look at the replay of that finish. Now, the consolation for Lindoff is he did take second in the championship with his position, but 8 1/1000ths away from his what would have been his only win this season. He's got to be a little bit gutted by that.
Well, it shows he tried everything. He tried to close the door as much as possible there on Gaspers. But Gaspers, even though he was on the grass, just not lifting, not caring about that, and takes away that win. Just incredible driving there by Gaspers, holding that car together and driving it to the finish line to take the last win of this season.
Wheels in the grass, banging side to side against each other, and look at that. Just barely edged him out at the line. Gaspers timed that to perfection. That's going to take us home here, though, in a second. We've finished the season out, but our show is not over. We, of course, will have driver interviews as well as the unofficial results. And, of course, we have on screen all the upcoming races here on the Global Sim Racing channel, so don't go away. Welcome back to Phillip Island here in Australia. We got to see a great one for the season finale here in 2019 Season 1. Even though it was David Gaspers with his 5th win in a row, it was 8 1,000ths at the line that he managed to take this one. But Henrik Lindhoff should not be disappointed. Not only did he clinch 2nd in the championship with that finish and his 3rd podium of the season, he did it coming from 13th on the grid. I'd say the Scandinavian really deserves that one. Daniel Sadro managed to finish in 3rd, with Antonio Reese coming home in 4th. Then Jason Perry, who managed to get the pole, unfortunately had a bit of a weird long pit stop that we're not sure what happened there, and he had to settle for 5th. Michael Shaw takes P6, with Alejandro Lero taking the win. We'll have to count how many Spec 2 wins that is for him. Alejandro Lero finishing 7th overall, winner in Spec 2, ahead of the likes of Edward Doherty, who takes 8th, 2nd on the podium in Spec 2. 9th goes to Steve Elson. 3rd on the podium for Spec 2 goes to Adam Bradshaw. 10th overall for him.
The 01 machine of Chris Murakami finishes in 11th position, just ahead of Rick Hansen in 12th. Stevie Ray, the organizer of this league, finishes in 13th position, just in front of Jim McGill in 14th, who did not improve a single position from his starting position. Dominic Bureau having the wrong gear in his car other way around. From 21st into 15th he went. So the right gear in his car. Paul Godden from 22nd to 16th, so the same rise for him as Bureau. Bob Kern finishes in 17th. Wade Palmer from 20th to 18th. Paul Barbusa from 28th to 19th is also one of the top risers of this race. And in 20th we have Jeff Cantor finishing the race.
John Dion is going to be finishing 21st, and then David Sockrider, who lacked pace in qualifying with 29th, finished 22nd on the track and on the lead lap. Kudos to the number 44 car. Tom Gradwell was the last car on the lead lap, finishing 23rd. Then Christopher Bedsole, who had his first experience with live pit stops in a race, finished 24th. Sandy Satullo, who came in from the real world, got 25th, 2 positions up for the 07. Not a bad job. Mark Geehan finished 26th. And then we get into DNFs today. Richard Yolland, 27th, Ramon Regalado, 28th, and Francesco Bernardo, 29th. So we have our winner ready to talk to us, David Gaspers. And it was a close one here to take your 5th in a row, 6th on the season. David, 8 1,000ths at the line. I don't know what it was like for you in the cockpit, but it was exciting for us on that last lap.
Yeah, I was a bit scared when I got sideways on the last curb that I would crash into him, but luckily I did not. And it was really close.
I'd say so. Now, next season, we are going to get a new feature on iRacing with the engine stall. And this car does not have an anti-stall in it. So what are your thoughts on that? Would you like to see that introduced to this series to make it a little bit more interesting, or what are your thoughts?
Since I know that not everyone is driving with a clutch pedal, I don't think it would work for the league. I will most likely not use it anymore, since I think you might be able to get better standing starts as we have in the official series, but I don't really know yet.
Well, it'll be fascinating to watch with this one. And this track has put on some exciting racing out there today. It always seems to with a spec racer, but you qualified down in 3rd today, and we were a little bit surprised by that. Was it just difficult to hook up with someone to try and get the pole, or what happened in qualifying?
I think if I didn't have a draft with Jason, I wouldn't have been that far up. I'm not that great on this track. And yeah, I think there were a couple of situations where you could see that I was struggling a bit.
So that's 6 wins this season, and you have been on dominant form, although it took a little bit to try and get there at the start of this season. Do you feel like you can carry this momentum over and continue the winning streak when we come back in 2 weeks?
I don't know. I think from what I remember of the next season schedule, I liked most of the tracks. I'm not sure though. So yeah, if I like the tracks, I'll come back.
Well, we hope to see you. Congratulations on a championship and another victory today.
Thanks.
That was David Gaspers, your winner, coming from third on the grid. I believe Steph has got Henrik Lindhoff, our second in the championship and second on the track driver.
Well, the story of Henrik's race there is so close yet so far. So close to the first win of this season, so close to the last win of this season, and yet so far away. 8/1000ths of a second. Talk us through the last pretty much corners of this race, Henrik. How did it feel to you?
It felt pretty good actually. I felt that I had a better car than Gaspers today, and he was struggling in some of the corners, and I knew maybe that if I was ahead going on to the last couple of corners, I could get a small advantage, but unfortunately, he got the run in the last couple of corners and got the slipstream, and I didn't want to wreck him too much either, or try to defend too hard, because I knew he had the run, and it was close, really, really close at the end, but it's okay. I think coming from 13th to second is pretty good still, so I'm really happy.
Now, one question I have on my mind: how did the car feel to you? We had quite a high temperature today. At the end, when you crossed the finish line, the track was still at 42 Celsius or 107 Fahrenheit. How did it feel to you there today out, especially with this hot track temperature?
Yeah, a bit slippery for sure. But I think I could save a bit of my tires behind Gaspers when I was pushing him forward. So I think I did quite okay on the tires, and I could manage them a little bit, because I think it was quite important in this race. So yeah.
Well, Henrik, before we let you go, how do you feel going forward into next season? How are you liking the schedule for next season?
It's gonna be interesting, I think. I mean, I got the pace, so I'll just have to make some better races and hopefully get to win next season. So,
well, I'm gonna have my fingers crossed. That was Henrik Lindhoff, your second place finisher of today's last race of the season, and Joe Peak is now going to talk to your third place finisher, Daniel Sadro.
Third place and his third podium of the season, Daniel Sadro, but it also means you wind up third in the championship. So I have to ask, coming in, were you aware of the point situation, and was your main focus finishing ahead of Henrik?
Hey, Joe. Hey, everybody. I was aware of the point situation. I am not really what you would call a points racer. I was just trying to do my best that I could, and whether that was going to end in the point standings, it would just fall out that way. But I just wanted to do the best I could, but the points weren't my big draw.
Also, we noticed that when the pit stops happened, you followed the likes of Perry in, but Henrik did not. Was this sort of a monkey see, monkey do, or was that planned on when you came in, regardless of what Perry did?
Actually, Jason kind of made it worse for me. I was looking for a lap to come in with nobody in front of me, and I was hoping when I saw the both of them stay off to the right hand side that I'd have a clear entrance to pit, and then he darted in, and I can't repeat what I said. But no, yeah, I was looking for an opening like Gaspers had the lap before, but I just didn't get it. Just didn't work.
So Gaspers and the likes of drivers like Halliburton have been dominating the wins in much of the weekend warriors lately. What do you think it's going to take for you to start to steal those P1s from those guys?
Well, I think it's going to be just a few less mistakes on my end. I had knew that it didn't matter, like tonight or today. I knew it didn't matter where I was at the beginning of the last lap. It was where I was going to be at the end. I was happy to stay in third behind, the two of them, and then I just made a mistake in the hairpin, and that's why it just kept me in third. But it's just the little mistakes that I need to stop making. But, congratulations to David and Henrik that was just an amazing race, and I can't wait to look at it, to rewatch the broadcast.
It was pretty thrilling. Well, congratulations on another podium regardless. And we hope to see you next season, sir.
I hope to see you guys next season. Have a good one, guys.
That was Daniel Sadro, third today out at Phillip Island. Next, Steph is going to be talking to Alejandro Lero, who had already solidified the Spec 2 championship, but also took the victory today out in Spec 2.
Yeah, and you could call him the dominator of the Spec 2 season, winning all but 2 races. I had a quick look on the championship, and if I didn't get anything wrong, he did do exactly that, win all races but 2 this today, including Alejandro. Pretty much certainty that you're going to be in Spec 1 next season, so bit of a mixed feeling today, but how are you feeling about next season, about that new championship that you're going to be in if you're going to take the challenge?
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me again today. I'm not sure I will compete next season, but the season after that, definitely. But yeah, it's been just a great season all the way. I'm a bit disappointed today because I thought I had pace to at least fight for the win, but small incident there. Then it went wrong very early, so spent the rest of the race catching up.
Yeah, and you did a great job catching back up, finishing there in 7th position from pretty much 19th after your spin. So yeah, great catch-up race there from you. Sadly, we didn't see all that much because the guys ahead were just going at it all the time. But yeah, you said it. Just a mixed feeling about this. How are you feeling in general about this season? Because you showed some great pace.
I'm really surprised. I began a little bit slow, or actually it began quite fast, and then it down a little bit, and then I kind of found the pace again towards the end. So I am quite happy. Somehow I have developed during this season, so I'm really glad. Have to thank my teammate because we did a lot of work together, shared setups, practice, and so on. And I also have to thank my team and our partners.
Well, how did the car feel to you today? Because of this high track temperature, were you also experiencing the loss of traction quite heavily here today?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was, if you compare to the race during the week, it was a very late race, so it was quite cool weather. And I had not practiced in warm weather before today, so it took a bit of getting adjusted to it, but in the end, then it was okay. And like I said, I thought I had quite good pace. Just bad luck.
An unfortunate ending there for you, quite in the middle of the race. But anyhow, we have the fingers crossed that you can make it next season again, back to Weekend Wars, because we would love to see you try to fight for that championship against David Gaspers and Kane Halliburton's and the likes of them. But that was Alejandro Lero there, your 7th place finisher / championship winner in the Spec 2 class. And Joe Peak has the honor of speaking to Stevie Ray,
the organizer of this league, and, well, one driver who was possibly in for the win for part of the race. I don't want to dwell on it too much because I imagine you probably don't want to, Stevie. What happened after the pit stops where it seemed like the handling of the car suddenly went away?
Hi, guys. Yeah, I don't know. Just some mistakes on my part, not hanging in there. Let it get away from me some, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. The first part up until after my fuel stop. After that, said just lack of concentration, I guess.
Unfortunate, as you were well in it with the top group there. before the stops came in. Now let's talk about the season on the other hand, both this season and the upcoming season. We had a little bit of a short one just to give people a break over the holidays, but it still gave us some good excitement until at least Gaspers started running away with anything. Are you considering maybe doing anything to the rules to tighten up the racing or the championship itself, or any changes planned for next season?
No, probably not a lot. We may lessen the number of drops compared to the last time we did a full season. So I'm looking forward to going back to the 12-week season, and said may just limit the drops to 1 or 2 or something, see what the guys think. But other than that, I think we got a pretty good thing going. The guys seem to like it. So you don't want to mess with success too much.
That's a good way to look at it. Speaking of messing with success, we've been really grateful to see the likes of Southeast Spec Racer get involved and even bring the likes of Sandy Satullo out here. Will that continue next season? And anything to say about them and their involvement this season?
Yeah, we hope so. I'm still talking with Justin Weir at Southeast Spec Racer, but a big thanks to those guys for coming on board this season. We've had a little bit of more communication between our group, the Spec Racer Ford iRacing group, and the Real World guys a little bit, posting some of the links to their uploads and live wires from the real races some. So looking forward to bringing in a few more next season. So I think there'll be some more of that down the road to come.
Excellent stuff. Well, thanks for coming and talk to us. Commiserations that the race didn't quite go as planned, and we hope to see more of you next season.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Thanks, guys. Again, just a big thanks to everybody that participated in Weekend Warriors this season. I can put it up, but it's the guys that do it week after week that make the league what it is. So a big thanks to everybody and to you guys for doing what you.
Well, thank you for organizing it, and also our thanks to the drivers for coming out and putting on a great show. Like Steve said, without them, we wouldn't have a show out there on the track. And we've got to close up this show as we thank Stevie Ray and Southeast Spec Racer. If you want to get involved with real spec racers, you can check them out at southeastspecracer.com. They are located in Daytona Beach, Florida. They can help you out if you want to go and race the real thing. Also, a thanks goes out to Inspectoride. They have a free download, a free trial at inspectoride.com/iRacing. And a thank you goes to iRacing themselves. They put us on the iRacing Esports Network this season, and we hope to return next season. We'll talk to them, see if that will continue. I anticipate it will if the Weekend Warriors return, and we are in talks with them for broadcasting next season. All you got to do is subscribe by clicking the big red button that says subscribe, and you will get the feed of the IESN on your YouTube feed. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Steph, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. The next race for this series is actually in a week's time. That'll be the V Runoffs at Road America, Sunday, March 10th at 1:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.